Okay. Here we go.
Okie dokie.
Are you ready to do this one again?
Let's do it.
This is a one more time with feeling.
Husker Part 2.
Yeah.
There we go.
But for you, it's part one because you've never seen the first part. The other one okay. So I fucked up on the audio on this last one, and we have to do this again. This is episode 11. Husker Du, Everything Falls Apart. This is a new kind of series we're doing where Shane and I listen to the exact same album of bands that we've always wanted to get into. So we've always wanted to get into Husker Du or Husker Don't. Mm-hmm. And so we picked their first record, Everything Falls Apart. So Shane, even though I know a lot of your thoughts on this one already.
Well, in the past 2 weeks since we recorded, I hate this album now.
Yeah.
No.
I completely disregard it.
I really liked it.
All right, that's
done.
All right,
end
of episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. So I obviously listened to it again, and this album just gets better the more you listen to it.
I love it so much.
I love it a lot. I'm like 19 minutes, 22 seconds. Mm-hmm. Absolute ripper.
It's all you need for a hardcore punk album.
Absolutely. And
all you could ever want.
It's good essential listening if you're into hardcore punk or any 80s punk.
For sure.
What's weird is a lot of people don't talk about this album.
They don't. So Husker Du has a pretty good following, but not this first record so much. I feel like it's overshadowed by their later stuff a lot, which is kind of a shame because I really like this, although I haven't listened to much of the rest of their discography.
Yeah. It just feels really timeless, like it to me anyways. I was like, this feels like a great like hardcore punk record. Yeah. Again, my favorite song on here is Gravity.
We can't say again after everything we said.
Yeah, we're just
nobody else
saying
knows
that.
the again part.
So my favorite song on this album is Gravity, which is the last song on the record. It's kind of a slower ditty. It's the longest song in the album at 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Long.
Yeah, so long. It's like a Tool song. It's like 13 minutes or something about a Fibonacci sequence, you know? Tool, baby. We should do a Tool episode.
We should do a Tool episode. I don't really listen to Tool, so you could probably just pick them for a thing.
I would pick the album nobody would want me to pick, so.
Good.
That's
what this is our show, not their show.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is Shane and Wakinyan's Ear Swap Special.
So, like you said, every song on this album is like, most of them are super short, super tight. One of them's, I think the shortest one's 32 seconds, which is Punch Drunk, which I love that one. Punch Drunk and Bricklayer, back to back, really short.
Yeah.
Excellent songs. Okay, let's get a little backstory about this. Sorry, everybody. We already know the backstory, but let's talk about the backstory of this band.
Let's do it.
So, Husker Du, where are they from, Joaquin?
They are from St. Paul, Minnesota, the west side, West St. Paul, Minnesota. So a bit of outcast when it came to the Minneapolis music scene at the time.
For sure.
So they kind of showed up, a bunch of noisy punk kids around this scene that was filled with like kind of that cliquey thing that happens in music communities often.
Yeah. Music douchebags.
Yeah, bunch of douchebags.
So they quickly became known as the world's fastest band in their scene because they just hit there immediately. They started in 1979. Yeah. And they immediately were just playing as hard as fast as they could go. They took influence from bands like Black Flag had the first release out around that time. What other bands did they say?
Dead Kennedys.
Dead Kennedys, of course.
Was a big one.
That shows through in some of the vocal stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
Get some Jello Biafra in there.
Yeah. And they did a bunch of kind of like cool runs of shows, which was neat to kind of see how they did that. They would go do like a week, or they just spent like, a month in California with the singer from Dead Kennedys. They had to go get food stamps.
Got food stamps. Yep.
Yeah. Super just slumming it punk attitude stuff, and I really like that. I like that attitude towards music a lot of the time. That's why punk's always at the root of everything I listen to, you know. Seems like, you know, like Casey Musgraves. It's punk as hell, man.
She's pretty fucking punk.
punk.
She's straight edge, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think she smokes a lot of weed. I think that's what it is.
I don't know.
I don't know her substance habits, unfortunately.
So we're going to message her like we did Caliucci's?
Yeah. Yeah, Casey Musgraves will absolutely reply to us. Caliucci's did.
Caliucci's did not. For everybody that's been waiting for that, no, she did not.
She never replied, ever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Bob Bold, I discovered him Mold? It's Mold.
I think it's Mold.
We looked it up.
Yeah.
Bob Mold, I discovered him from the Foo Fighters Back and Forth documentary back in 2011 when that came out. It was the Wasting Light was the Foo Fighters record that I got into. And Bob was in there. I didn't know who the fuck he was at the time. I was like 13. I'm like, Dave Grohl's like, yeah, he's a punk legend, and his voice is so like, you know, iconic that I wanted it on the song. It's the song Dear Rosemary, which I will link in the description because it is a very, very excellent Foo Fighters song in general. That's like the last good Foo Fighters record. So that's a good one. They actually played it on like a late night show with Bob, and he's like playing guitar, which as if the Foo Fighters need a fucking another guitar player. But yeah, so that's how I discovered the adjacent thing. But I'd never listened to Husker Du. I remember being in Pennsylvania on tour one time, watching Husker Du live videos at a house, and then we watched G.G. Allin shortly thereafter that. I don't know why that became related, but 80s punk stuff. It was like his funeral.
Farthest thing apart. Oh, his funeral where people are like putting his dick in their mouth and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
G.G. Allin, not
Husker
any
Du.
of the Husker Du members.
Yeah, it was G.G. Allin, and we watched that after Husker Du. Which I love the Husker Du thing. I was like, cool. And this is like actually since then, that was like 2018. And this is like 4 years later, and I'm finally listening to him. There's a lot of fucking music out there. So
there's so much. This was a band I had always heard about related to other bands that I liked. And I heard songs here and there, and I didn't really understand the connection at the time to what I was listening to and what they... Because like Fugazi, it comes up on like related artists all the time. Yeah. And I didn't really make that connection. And I only knew Husker Du from the bit in Joe Dirt.
Husker Du? Husker don't. Yeah, the fireworks stand.
I only sell snakes and sparklers.
Yeah.
Another thing that we found while researching this was the Husker Du, the fastest band in the world, Minnesota Hardcore Episode 2 by Twin Cities PBS on YouTube.
It's super good.
It's really short, and it's really
like 20
good.
minutes.
21 minutes.
I'll link it.
It's excellent. That's a good watch.
It's a good watch. If you're into punk music at all, just watch that shit. It's so cool.
It's great. But it definitely focuses more on their hardcore punks side of things because they kind of became like a post-rock, post-hardcore band afterwards.
There was a guy that said like he kind of... Some of the people really checked out when they started not being the fastest band in the world.
Of course. That's going to happen whenever you change your sound.
Yeah, and there's people who are just
still making good music. Because some bands change their sound and then they stop making anything good.
Yeah.
And that's no good. But these guys then went on to make the stuff they were known for.
Yeah.
Was obviously probably the right call.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how like fan bases either... How there's certain people that will grow with the artist, and there's certain people that just absolutely are done once they stop doing the thing that they associate with that. I don't know. I always like to grow with artists. That's why I still stick around with the Chili Peppers. Like, they're old farts, but like... Yeah.
You think they're going to reach anything like their glory days?
No.
No,
I don't. I think they're in a place where they can just be chill. It's a different environment. I don't think they're too interested. Plus, they're just kind of... making records. I mean, they've put out 2 albums this year, you know?
Well, you get to a certain age when you're listening, and you just stop caring about new stuff, so you just... No, but exactly. I think it is a young man's game to be like, oh, they're not as heavy as they used to be. They don't scream as much. They don't shout. That as a young man, I said those things.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh, no, this band just sucked after that record. So it's like...
I could see that, yeah.
I don't know. As long as they're still doing good stuff, then change away.
I think so. Yeah, if the band members are down with it. Yeah. I think if the band's enthusiastic about it, then that usually keeps me in. But there's certain bands, Coldplay, that you can kind of tell when they're checked out and they're just trying to make money. You know, Maroon 5, I think.
Were either of those bands not checked out the entire time?
Hey, I thought Coldplay and Maroon 5 were very good when they started. That first Maroon 5 record's great. I genuinely think that.
I probably never listened to much of it, but I'm not a Maroon 5 guy. I do like some early Coldplay, I guess.
Yeah, it's like that, but then
it's just Radiohead without the talent, but that's fine.
But then you fucking listen to anything they made in the like 2010s, and you're just like, what the fuck?
That's a cash grab. Yeah,
it is, man. I know, whatever. If they want to make money, go for it. But
For sure. All right, what were we talking about? Husker Du?
Husker Du, not Coldplay.
Not Coldplay. Same band.
Same exact band. So what was your favorite song on this record?
Everything Falls Apart.
That was,
title track.
That
it's
was a good one.
just so catchy, and it just sticks in your head. I've had that in my head since I first started listening to it. So it's still sticking in there.
I think From the Gut's a great album opener.
From the Gut is,
it's so good.
Yeah. And I guess we should talk about Sunshine Superman, how that is a cover of a Donovan song, which I still haven't gone and listened to any of Donovan, but I don't think it's my thing. I think it was kind of one of those, I mean, the punk covers were kind of a staple in the time of like taking a pop song and doing a punk cover and making it sound real bad. Not bad, but like rough and like
completely
kind of gross and
dismantling.
I mean, think of the freaking Sid Vicious cover of My Way.
Oh yeah. Also, Steve Albini's band Rape Man.
Rape Man, yeah.
They did a cover of Just Got Paid by ZZ Top.
Oh yeah.
On that Two Nuns and a Pack Mule. It's fucking great. It's great.
That's cool.
I think it's good.
The My Way by Sid Vicious does not sound good.
Oh,
that guy didn't know how to do
it's
anything.
Sid Vicious.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, that's what they use for the credits of Goodfellas, right?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that.
Yep.
I just watched that movie the other night.
I love
again.
Goodfellas.
I watch it like 5 times a year.
Ooh, I've got a good movie not really tie-in, but a good like punk movie recommendation that I just watched.
Oh.
It's called Repo Man. Have you ever heard of that one?
Repo Man.
Came out in the 80s, 84. Starring Emilio Estevez and Harry Dean Stanton.
Okay.
It's great. I watched it last night. The night before, something like that. I don't know, but I loved it.
Wow.
It's a young punk, and he starts working as a repo man, and it's great. The soundtrack's excellent. Iggy Pop did the theme song to it, and there's like Black Flag, and the Circle Jerks are in it.
Oh, that's sick.
And one of the actors ended up being in the Circle Jerks.
Oh.
So that's pretty sick. We might have to do Circle Jerks.
Yeah, Circle Jerks would be cool.
Episode. But yeah, it's great. If you're into punk or hardcore, like that's a must watch. It's excellent.
I feel like I've heard of this movie. It looks familiar.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so this band, Husker Du, they're a power trio. 3 people. They're like the Police. Not the actual police, the band The Police.
There's only 3 people in the
police department.
Police department.
In the world.
Yeah.
So they're 3-piece. Bob is on guitar and vocals. Greg Norton has the best mustache and plays bass and does vocals. And Grant Hart is a singing drummer.
Singing drummer.
Yep.
He was a singing drummer.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Grant Hart.
Greg Norton has the best mustache in all of punk.
I mean, look at that.
Look at it. It's here.
It's the best looking mustache in punk.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say music?
Maybe. It's one of the top.
Yeah, I still got it.
For sure.
Still looking good with that stash.
Yeah, so Grant Hart passed away in 2017. I believe he had liver cancer and some other things. So, yeah, and you'll see him in that documentary we recommended.
Yeah, he's
at the very end. It was real sad.
Well, I'm kind of hearing how that band demised was kind of a classic way for a punk band to go out of, like, homies struggling with drugs and alcohol and just being on tour and can't handle it anymore. And that basically is what ended the band. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of get old and you get tired of that shit. So, I get it.
Yeah.
But they have a good legacy behind them, and Bob he's went on to has his own band. They are called Sugar. He's got that band Sugar. And that's also it was a 3-piece. 92 to 95 is when they were a band. They came out with a couple records. Yeah, I mean, I think Husker Du. Okay, so I have another question. Mm-hmm. Do you think they sound closer to West Coast punk, or East Coast punk, or do you think they're incredibly Midwest?
I would say mid-leading east.
Leading east, huh?
Mm-hmm. What would you say?
I could definitely say east, but they are incredibly Midwestern because they're just a group of goofy guys.
For sure.
Because Midwestern guys are just so like, there's not enough culture around them, so they have to like be into West Coast or East Coast stuff, and then they just learn, like, he's like, yeah, Black Flag or the Dead Kennedys was this West Coast thing that they kind of mold their sound with that.
Bob molded.
And become the band that they are. I think that's interesting. It's like kind of in the same kindle as like a lot of like Big Black and Jesus Lizard and stuff. Those are like very unique bands that I think could only happen.
We can't talk about Jesus Lizard because that's coming up.
Yeah.
Spoiler for the end of the episode.
But I think I love the Midwest sound though. I like Midwest punk because it's a very unique breed because they did have to take their influences from West Coast and East Coast at the time. So that's just where shit was happening.
Sure.
There wasn't much in really that, especially in fucking St. Paul or Minneapolis, Minnesota. All you had was like Prince, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I think it is definitely more. It's probably one of the. I could imagine them more as like an East Coast going over well and the East Coast over West, but they played the fuck ton out of West Coast. That was like
I feel like
spot.
they just had friends, and that's why they did that.
Oh yeah,
they just met people.
That's punk.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because their first show was in Ontario.
Yeah,
like I can't remember what.
You just find a homie,
but it was just like,
well, and like,
why would you start there?
Well, and hearing how they got tour dates, would they go to shows and somebody like, hey, I got a number for a guy in here, and they'd have a book and just write the number, and you would just fucking, hey, we're Husker Du, we're trying to get a show for this date. I think that's fast now. It's all like Facebook and email and stuff. Like you kind of had to hustle and know a guy to kind of get anywhere.
For sure.
I actually had a friend of mine tell me, because I was like, hey, your band I would love to play a show with you sometime or whatever, and they're like, man, that's funny. Like, you've never heard my band, but you're like, yeah, come play a show. I'm like, yeah, it's because, like, punk ethic is all about just your homies. Like, I don't give a shit, really, how good your band is. It's like being in a band with people, too. It's like, I don't give a fuck about your musicality. Are you, like, a good person to be around, you know? That's really,
usually
I think
not,
that's it. Yeah. Usually not. But, you know, I like that stuff. I like it's just, like, friends helping friends, and I would like to do another Husker Du album in the future.
I'm gonna continue listening to them. I wanna check out more of their
discography and
stuff.
Give it a whirl.
Yeah, I'm very much into this band actually.
Yeah,
it's weird going through and re-recording this episode because I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm not.
I know.
So it's like I feel like the first one flowed a lot better. So sorry if this is like kind of all over the place, but
we're figuring out this podcast.
Yeah,
every episode at a time. Let me tell you.
But yeah, I feel like I haven't expressed that. I love this record.
Yeah,
this is great. It's the lost like classic hardcore punk album out there because nobody's talking about it. I don't know anybody that's ever mentioned this record to me.
Yeah, neither have I. I'm glad we picked it though.
Yeah,
I'm really glad we did. I love it.
It's like so solid. It should fit in right in. Oh yeah, I compared them to Youth of Today on the previous episode, which they came after. So like I think they started in the '83. But vocal styles and stuff like that, it fits. They're like, it fits right in. If you're into that stuff, this should be a must listen for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to get this one on vinyl. That'd be kind of a good one to get.
I don't know how
accessible it is, or
I'll look that
seems
up
like there was a remaster. So my question is,
mm-hmm.
What would you rank this out of 5?
For me, I'm gonna go 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
I really like this. Yeah,
I agree. I'm gonna have to go 5 out of 5.
Okay.
So overall score, it gets a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
between the two of us, I think it's a great punk record.
Mm-hmm.
I had no problems with it because I loved how much it knew what it was.
Yeah.
It was like there was no bullshit. This is just a band that played the fuck, like went out and played live a bunch.
They also made their own record label to release it.
Yeah,
because nobody would take it, so they just made Reflex Records, and we're just like, we're doing it ourselves, which a lot of guys did. Obviously, you got Alternative Tentacles with Jello Biafra and the Fugazi guys.
Discord Records.
Discord,
yeah,
which they were already kind of established when they did that, I think.
Yeah.
And these guys ended up on Alternative Tentacles, I guess. I don't know if that's a full release or re-release or something, but haven't gotten that far. So.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a good classic punk record. Yeah. It is Chayne and Wakinyan recommended
for sure.
And also welcome to December. It's December now.
So we did in the previous recording that is lost in space and time. We kind of went over like the the members and like who they are, what they did a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think we have a little bit of time left, so
sure.
I think we should definitely use that. So Grant Hart, like we said, he passed away. Yeah, I've got the right people. Okay. Which you had a story about them spilling his like methadone or something, didn't you? That sounded really sad.
That's what happened.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so Grant, they were on tour. This was the tour that kind of broke him up. He was going through heroin withdrawals, so he was taking methadone in order to deal with the withdrawals.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody spilt all of his methadone on tour, so he became a real asshole, as you do when you're withdrawing from drugs. And he couldn't play. Like, he was so sick and everything, and Bob was struggling with alcohol at the same time, that they had to cancel the tour, and that was the last thing they ever did.
Dang.
So that kind of ended a little tragically, and I'm not really quite sure how well of terms they were on after the band breakup. You know, they might have been like, you know, they're neither here nor there on things for the most part. I mean, even at the end of that documentary when Grant talks about Husker Du, he's kind of like, I don't know why it's so important. Yeah. Like, he seemed kind of
like, this is just a thing they did for 9 years, I guess, which that's a pretty good chunk of time. That's a pretty good chunk of time. In your entire life, that's not that much.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're kind of like, as you're the guy from Husker Du all the time, I think that could get kind of down on there. And he was also openly bisexual. Back in there was a rumor that him and Bob were in a relationship.
Yeah, because Bob is gay.
Yeah, Bob is one of the first openly gay musicians, punk musicians. In the 80s especially. But that's not true. They were not in a relationship.
Oh, it was like he's not
It was
gay.
A rumor. No,
like,
he's gay.
A bunch of stuff about him being gay. And then Greg just left the band and then like opened a restaurant and.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. Well, I think he came back and did some stuff later on. But yeah, restaurateur in Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
I think in Minnesota.
You ever been to Minnesota?
No.
It's pretty all right.
No, I've never been there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. It was cold.
You
know. I actually played in St. Paul. I did.
Really?
Not Minneapolis. Played in St. Paul in a basement. It was great. Got fed vegan food, and then we stayed in a what do they call that? Dominatrix room.
Oh.
Like, it was her bedroom.
Okay.
And there were like whips and things all over the place, and we had to. That was like, hey, yeah, you guys can crash here, and you can sleep in this room.
Did you play with the whips?
No, did not. I remember one of the guys lost their belt, and they're like, I don't know, with all that leather and shit, I probably lost my belt in the dominatrix room.
Probably. This was Sutphin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was Tristan, and he just used a shoestring for his belt the rest of the tour. You know, it worked.
It works.
God, that was funny. Got fed vegan food. That was good. That was a good night. Everybody in Minnesota was very nice.
Interesting.
Because they're Midwestern.
Midwest people, man.
Yeah. So, yeah. Husker do.
Mm-hmm.
Husker don't, but they do.
They do.
Let me tell you.
This is band I'm definitely. It's should have been on my radar for a long time. Sadly wasn't, but I'll be listening to more of them.
I definitely feel like I would have. If I would have just heard this band back in like when I was 17, I would have just been obsessed with it.
Probably.
I'm surprised I didn't.
I don't know if I really even heard like real hardcore punk until I was like probably later teenagers.
Yeah.
Like years. Just because it wasn't super accessible. There was like hardcore bands in my hometown, but even then, like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't in the mid 2000s. It wasn't what it was in the, in early 80s.
Yeah,
so
totally different beast.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just surprised because I was listening to a lot of stuff that was of that. I was listening to Black Flag and Big Black and all the sort of Steve Albini stuff. I was like all Midwest, Chicago. I was just right there. So I'm surprised I didn't get into Husker Du, but now I have.
Now you have.
Now I've entered that room. So yeah, did you have any other thoughts, conditions, pieces?
Not that I can remember.
No.
Anything you remember from the last one that we said?
Not really.
The better episode, probably.
Yeah, probably the better episode. I think I don't know. I feel like we got the point across because it's a short listen. So, I mean, like, if you want to get into punk, this is 19 minutes of your time. Yeah. It's not like an hour record, 30-minute record. It's super quick, easy listen. I think give it a shot. It is Chayne and Wakinyan approved.
Yeah. Throw it on when you're doing dishes.
Perfect.
And
you'll be good. Yeah. And you'll get the dishes done really quick because
really
the songs are all fast.
Maybe not very good, but
it's the thought that counts.
Yeah. All right.
So we do have
some record picks, or you got an announcement?
I have an announcement.
Ooh.
The announcement is we have Earswap shirts. They are available for pre-order at earswappod.bandcamp.com. I'll put a link in the description as well. We kind of have a limited run right now. The limited runs.
We got the runs.
Yeah, of these first design. They were done by Straight Printing here in Wichita. Big thanks to Phil. So we'll have those here next week. And, be sure to get some stickers and stuff. If you're one of the first 5 people to throw a pre-order in, we'll throw you an I'm the Dick for Me button.
Heck yeah, we still have some of those
we do.
Floating around.
So I've been saving them. So if you're one of the first 5, we'll throw in the limited I'm the Dick for Me button. Shane Sturgeon. But with that, next episode picks.
Mine is sitting on the floor over there. I forgot to grab that before we recorded. You can just edit it in.
Yeah, I'll edit it in.
So for you, for this, next week, that we're definitely not recording right after this, I am picking the Mountain Goats, All Hail West Texas.
Why are you picking that one?
Pretend like you've never heard it. I'm picking that one. I wanted to, like all my picks that I've done so far, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I think this is different than anything I've showed you.
Throwing in the old curveball.
The old curveball. I think they're an interesting band too. And the way he recorded it is interesting. We'll get into that in the next episode, though. I think we can save it. I made you read a whole thing off of the inside of the
right, you did.
The case last time.
That was 10 minutes of the last one.
Yeah, it was great. It ate up so much time. We'll talk about the recording process, and it's kind of like a good, like, long single song almost, the way it flows, I think. But
okay, yeah. Well, I'll give it a listen.
For sure. So what do you have for me that I don't know that's coming right now and that I haven't listened to a bunch this past week?
So in the theme of goats, I'm going to recommend you Goat by the Jesus Lizard.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's about the Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
That's the whole theme of the record. I
watched a very different Wizard of Oz than you did.
I'm going to recommend you that one. We were kind of talking about it, so I thought, why not just recommend it to you?
Throw it out there.
And we'll throw it out there. So thanks for watching episode 11. This is
a short one.
We're
probably going to alternate short and then normal episodes. Normal episodes from now on. We're going to do a little something different for Christmas, I think. But,
I'm so fucking excited for that
I know
Christmas
you love Christmas
special.
music. So,
oh, dude. I can't fucking wait.
Be jolly.
It's going to be jolly here in the next couple weeks. So thank you all for watching this new format. Let us know what you think of Husker Du.
Let you know what we think.
And let you know what we think.
Remember to swap your ears, buddies.
Yep.
I don't know. We don't really have catchphrase.
Swap your ears, bucko.
Bucko.
That's the one.
Put that on a pin. All right. Love you guys. Goodbye.
Peace. Far right.
So
far
left
right
podcast.
The far right podcast. Oh, that coffee in my veins. Give me 1 second.
Is your phone recording?
It is.
I'm not re-recording this for a third time. Oh yeah, that's some private select.
Can you taste it?
I can taste the privates in it.
You can taste the privates in it. I can taste old Kroger's nutsack in there.
Old Dillon's just sack in there. Yeah.